Welcome to the Star Podcast.
Whoa. Star Podcast.
Welcome to the Star Podcast, hosted by Nat. Each week, we share tips and stories from safety, trucking, and recruitment, and everything in between. Listen now.
Welcome back to the Star Podcast. Today I get to sit down with Brian Pattison, who's the General Manager of Northern Academy of Transportation Training. I really enjoyed getting to sit down to talk to Brian because he not only shared information about Northern Academy and where it started and where it is today, but he shares some information about his career and how it started, how he enjoyed truck driving. He shares different tips for someone who might be interested in becoming a truck driver, questions to ask. It was just really informative and really interesting to hear about his early career and then how the truck driving industry has changed a bit. So he gives some really great insights. Great to sit down and speak with him. I'm glad that he finally got to come on and join us on the podcast because it was a great episode. So I highly recommend you listen now. And remember, if you have any ideas for topics you'd like to hear on the podcast, ideas for guests, you can send us an email. It's just podcast@natgroup.ca. So just the word podcast at nattgroup.ca. Listen now.
So I just want to start off by welcoming you to the podcast. I'm excited to get to chat with you today.
Thank you. It's exciting for sure.
So I was hoping, first off, I'd like to talk about your career. So I was just hoping, can you share a little bit about how your career started, and then we'll get more into Northern Academy?
Probably when it pertains to the trucking industry or transportation, it was essentially right out of high school. So I did some part-time stuff with actually going back with the Manitoulin group around probably the years of 1985, 86.
Okay.
As a summer student working in the garage and around the yard in the Lively area in their Sudbury terminal and in the shop. So that's kind of where I initially cut my teeth in the trucking industry. And that's probably following the footsteps of my older brothers that had worked at Manitoulin or participated in that area, right? So that's kind of where I started cutting my teeth. And then fast forward to probably 1987 is when I actually finally graduated from secondary school. So started basically into trucking in some capacity full-time there and ventured forward. So that's been my progression. I haven't left the industry since that date. I've just kind of added to my portfolio as per se of what I've been doing. So it's been, 30 plus years. It's been good to me for sure. And it's something that I probably inspire to. I don't see myself switching industries anytime soon.
So how many years were you then working for Manitoulin before you started up Northern Academy? Can you talk about that a little bit?
So in between that period, most of my experience at Manitoulin at that point was just as a summer student. Then after that, I left to go to essentially a competitor at the time, which was Transprovincial Freight Carriers, where basically I spent the next 13 years there. So that's where I would have obtained my AZ license then. They had what was called a DCP program, which was a driver certification program with their in-house driver trainer. Majority of the trucking companies of any size then had that internally. There wasn't many driving schools around at that point. So I was able to obtain my license through them at a young age, at 18 actually. So
wow.
I was fortunate only because of the fact back then was the majority of insurable drivers were not allowable before the age of 25. So at the time, the owner of the companies had a son of the same age as myself. So I was extended the opportunity at the same time as him to be taught and mentored by experienced drivers and added to their insurance policies. So I was kind of a little abnormal when it came to that. So essentially what happened was I gained my license, gained some experience with experienced guys, and scotched through some driving positions there and actually purchased my own truck within a year. So I spent essentially 13 years there gaining experience as a broker. And that's kind of where I cut my teeth before moving along.
So the next step was Northern Academy, starting Northern Academy. What year was that?
So yes and no. So I'll back up a little bit. Of course, our company history with with Kevin starting the TPS group in 2001 with the drivers group based out of Sudbury. essentially, I was doing some other oddball jobs after I had left my full-time broker career, and joined Kevin basically in 2002 as a driver. So I essentially started within the TPS group as a driver, and progressed through all the positions we had as driver, freight, various jobs, the fuel division, and then came off the road in 2007 to become a driver trainer for our group. Essentially stayed there for a year, and then in around the end of 2007-ish, I moved into the role of the operations manager for the drivers group. So much like how we have Gina Zinger right now, completing that role with the drivers group, I took over that role. So that was in and around the same time that we took over ownership of the school in around the 2008 era. And essentially I was on the operations side till 2010. And then when we had the opening on the operations side for the school is when I moved over to the school side full time. And then, of course, looked after the drivers group at the same time. So it was in and around that time where I made the move over to the school side of things.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know all that. I'm glad we got to sit down, get to learn a little bit more about your history. Has Northern Academy changed a lot because it's been in operation for such a long time? Like, have you seen any changes from when you first started to now?
I think we have. The curriculum, the way the course is taught, day to day, has it changed a lot? Probably not. When the school was developed back in 1994 by the Manitoulin Group, initially got it going, a lot of what we're teaching has not changed. If anything, it's been probably the standards have, and I want to be polite when I'm saying this, has been lowered a little bit. So with I'll skip ahead. Everybody hears about mandatory entry-level training, the MELT program in the province of Ontario. There was never a standard for AZET training, so anybody could challenge to become a truck driver. So what was actively lobbied for in the province was to get some sort of minimum standard. So that's what was put in place by Ontario being the first province that did it in 2017, which gave a minimum standard. The only issue with that was our standard was already twice as high as that. So we were doing courses that were, when we took it over from the Manitoulin Group again, Northern Academy, that were 260 hours long over the period of, let's say, 10 weeks, where all of a sudden we wanted a minimum standard, but the minimum standard was a lot lower than what, may I say, reputable schools were teaching already. So essentially, that is some of the change. Did we progress, I think, as an industry? I think so, by bringing the minimum standard in, but it caused us to rethink, our daily operations, just because the entry to the driving school, the standards were a lot lower than what we were teaching already. So obviously that invites shorter courses, more competitiveness. There are schools popping up that we're teaching, not to say the standard is not right, but a lower amount of hours. So we created a competitive market, one that we probably didn't want to see, where we had to provide two courses, a lower amount of hours versus what we were teaching at the double amount, right? So those have been some of the bigger changes we've incurred in the last, at least since 2017, for sure.
But someone can still come and take the more involved course.
100%. They can still participate. We still offer both. Many of the schools that are part of, say, the TTSAO, which we belong with, still, that's the Truck Training School Association of Ontario. They still participate, virtually all. We have an option for both, but the majority of the courses that we're teaching are the more robust one with the more hours. Majority of the schools participate in an add-on of the air brake program, the air brake endorsement, which is a mandatory 12-hour course with the ministry. There are still a lot of schools that are pushing, obviously, for students to be taught at the more robust hours, 100%. But what did happen when it opened up the market, to say the lower amount of hour courses, it opened up a lot more schools since 27 entered the market. We're a private career college on the Ministry of Colleges and Universities. So what ended up happening was in 2017, there was about just under 100. There was 98 schools registered in the province of Ontario to teach truck training. Right now, there's over 250.
Wow.
So through COVID, the numbers seem to increase, which is kind of a little bit mind-boggling that anything gets accomplished. People being able to open up a new private career college during that environment with the shutdowns and all that, but it happens. So there's a lot more schools in our market for sure teaching the lower amount of hours. When you ask me what I've seen for changes, those are the main changes that's happened within our industry, within the trucking industry.
So whenever the Northern Academy was started, whenever you first came on, were there as many courses? Because I know when I first got familiar with Northern Academy, I just thought it was just truck training, but there's so many courses available at Northern Academy. So were those courses always available, or did you develop those kind of as the years?
Not all. So again, I just got to revert back to when it was developed. The school itself, Northern Academy, and it was the Manitoulin Group that founded the school and developed it. And it started out with just the core 2 courses registered with the Ministry of College and University, which was the AZ program for tractor trailer, and then the DZ program just for the truck itself. So, and the reasoning that they developed the separate school and separate identity was to be able to feed entry-level students, drivers, into their driving system, which later they would, mentor or coach, kind of what I talked about earlier that I got, although it wasn't formal in my day. Well, they changed that into a formal coaching program. So the school was based on that initially. So to answer your question, as we've gone along, and the school came under, our group, obviously there was a need to increase probably revenue in certain areas. So there was additional courses that we started to add on. One would be like a PDIC, Professional Driver Improvement course. So that would pertain to maybe somebody that had an accident that we wanted to corrective action and some remedial training with them. So we quickly realized that course didn't only work for maybe like somebody who was part of our drivers group. There was a thirst for that outside of our main group. So other transportation companies and or construction outfits with trucks that maybe somebody had a mishap or an accident, that we could, as a third party, provide the remedial training for that group. So we've increased a lot more courses for sure, but I think that's the main answer, is that we wanted to add to our overall portfolio as far as creating revenue for the school and not have it just reliant on producing AZ students.
Right. You touched a bit on how Northern Academy has the more like robust AZ course versus like the minimum. Mandatory.
Yeah.
Is there anything that Northern Academy does maybe differently to keep drivers safe, or is there anything different about how the trainers teach the course, or anything that you want to add about that?
I think the course curriculum, like I said earlier, hasn't really changed a lot. How one drives the, transport really hasn't changed. If anything, it's probably there's additional safety components to trucks that have really improved over the years. But I think for us, as we get an entry-level student to become an entry-level licensed driver, it really is down to the basics what we're teaching. And the first part of it is to teach them how to be safe. It's no different than teaching your child how to drive a car. It's the safety rules that you set out and the consistency of how we teach and manage it as they're progressing through the course. So as there's not been a lot of change, but our trainers themselves are the majority of what we have on staff now are experienced, and their experience not only in training or driving truck, that is one of the mandatory entries to becoming a trainer for AZ, let's say with the Ministry of Colleges and University, that there's at least 5 years of verifiable driving experience with an AZ license. So anybody we have on staff teaching or any other reputable school, their trainer that's out there, when you meet them, they should be able to explain to you that they had 5 years of trucking experience prior to becoming anything else that any school does with them, including ourselves, as far as, in-house training programs for trainers. So that's ongoing, refresher courses and monthly meetings with trainers to discuss hurdles or issues or training techniques. So that's ongoing for sure.
I just wanted to see, so say there's someone that's listening and they're interested maybe in becoming a truck driver. What are the steps someone should do? Should they reach out to you? Should they reach out to Shannon? Like what options do people have?
So either or. Shannon, as you know, is our sales and our specialist, working with students potential students. They're looking to inquire about the course and see what it's all about. But what I tend to encourage, and I know Shannon does this, is please come and visit us. Come to 25 Agnew Court in Lively, walk through the door, explain what you're after. I'm interested in truck driving. And there's not only our trainers that are training for the truck, we have our trainers on our driver's side that are here every day. We have an ops manager that looks after 150 drivers, being who I mentioned earlier, Gina Zinger. There's myself. We encourage them to talk and ask lots of questions. We encourage them to stay with us for a while and be prepared to go out and do a bit of a walk along in the yard to see students that are being trained, ask any questions they want, and we encourage them to do a ride along. So a ride along would be we're equipped with extra seats in the trucks. And if they got the time to stay or to come back, we encourage them to get in the truck and see how the examiners, our trainers, are teaching our students, and go for a ride and see if it's still something they desire to do, or if they're scared and they don't want to do it any longer, which we've had. But my last thing that I would say to them, if they participate in that, and I can tell you what you want, but please, when you're out there, ask the students how things are going or what they're learning or if they're liking it, or I'd rather hear them, let them hear it from somebody that's participating in the course than a sales pitch from my desk, right? So those are the biggest things we encourage, that they participate before they even sign up for the course, so they have a broad knowledge of what they're getting into.
Perfect. And would you say no matter what school they decide on to do those same things, go in if they offer a ride along? I don't know if other schools do that or not, but
I can't answer for other schools, but what I encourage them to do, because say a potential student comes to the door, they may be applying for government funding like Better Jobs. So they'll have a portfolio that they got a package that they have to get filled out, and they have to do research. And they have to prove that they've done the research in order to get the funding. And so if they show up at our school with the package, we provide all the information that they need for our school, tuition costs, what it consists of, all that good stuff. And then we do, whether you want to say it's our sales pitch, I encourage them to do our on-site research and ask a ton of questions of everybody, myself included, and the ride along, of course. But I always encourage them when they leave here is that if they're going to participate at another school, to do proper research, please do the same thing you did at our school. Ask the same questions, so you have a true comparable. Don't allow somebody just to talk to you on the phone as per se and tell you the answers. Allow them to make sure you ask these pertinent questions, because it's important for you to make an educated decision, whether it's us or anybody else, because it's your life you're dealing with, right? And how you're moving forward. So
absolutely.
I think, transparency is one thing. Not to say any school is better or worse than us. I just want the person to make sure they're doing a change in their life. Like it used to be not Better Jobs, it was called Second Careers, which I hate it, because everybody end up at our door and it sounds like somebody's burnt out from the tech world. So, my second career I'm going to pick is truck driving, right?
Yes.
I'd rather it be their first career, but I like them. They're making a big change in their life, make an educated decision, whether they think they can, not somebody telling them, hey, you should drive a truck because there's truck driving jobs, them to come here and accept it like, hey, yeah, I think I could drive this thing. Like I know I can control this. I'm not scared of it. Make an educated decision.
Excellent. And just one last thing. I know we're talking a lot about individuals going in and getting the training, but Northern Academy can also offer training to groups or to organizations, correct? If they're looking to train?
Yeah, 100%. So we do a lot of corporate training. I guess that's how I would say it. As far as everything from the smaller courses, like it could be an air brake course for their air brake endorsement. It could be, we do a lot of load securement courses. So again, could be a construction company, a mining company that moves some stuff around, smaller vehicles. They don't quite understand how to chain stuff down. We do a ton of that. We do a ton of defensive driving with and trailering with smaller vehicles. A G-Class pulling, there's at least 3 surveying groups that do pull around Skidoos, Argos. We do defensive driving with them, including their trailering. So to make sure their companies want to make sure they're competent in doing that. And then we do a lot of corporate DZ, AZ too with groups that hire us to do. One is a plowing company out of the Sioux. They start early in the summer recruiting people, employees they hire, and then they send them to us to do DZ and AZ training so they're ready for the plowing year. So there's a lot of group training that we do also, for sure.
The training that you do in the Sioux, do they have to come to Lively or do you go to the Sioux?
No, corporately, we've done that at their site.
Oh, okay.
So closing probably, I'm assuming we'll talk again at some point, but
yeah,
maybe part 2, but 36 years I've stuck it out and it's been good to me. So I think my closing statement would be that if somebody's wanting to experience, come in, check it out, do some research to become a driver. It's been rewarding. The wages are good, and there's a lot of people that have made a good career and pedaled through life like myself for 36 years and come out at the other end maybe a little more weathered, but it's been good.
Amazing. Well, thank you very much. It was really good getting to hear a little bit more about your career and before Northern Academy and then the school kind of building up. So that was really interesting. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wow. Star Podcast.